I have a shout out today. I would like to call out some legislation that is passing through Congress. It's meandering through Congress, not enacted yet, to protect inspectors general at the executive branch of the federal government. I don't think this legislation has an actual name, but as we might have all remember from the Trump administration, President Trump treated inspectors general within his administration terribly, didn't name them, or did name people under an acting capacity and then shifted them around, or he fired them because they were investigating political associates of his. One quick example, he fired the acting AG of the State Department once that Inspector General was investigating the former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, for using his office to conduct personal errands and for private political gain for when Pompeo tries to run in 2024. Anyways, inspectors general, I should say, they really took it on the chin for the last 4 years under the Trump administration. So Congress, the House of Representatives, recently passed legislation that would add more protections to IGs. They could only be removed for cause. They would be granted the authority to subpoena testimony from witnesses who are not currently government employees. They would have to actually be required to notify Congress if agencies refuse to provide access to documents or witness testimony from government employees or anything like that. So it is a move to give inspectors general more support, make it more difficult to retaliate against them for doing difficult investigations. It passed in the House narrowly. Is it going to pass the Senate? Who knows, because Mitch McConnell doesn't like anything to pass for any reason ever. But we should think about inspectors general in the federal government and the protections that we can give them so they can be more objective and fulsome truth seekers and investigators trying to get to the bottom of misconduct in government agencies. I know we tend to talk about the private sector here, but we need to give a shout out to our public sector brethren who are inspectors general. I hope this legislation will somehow come to pass and we can put more support behind inspectors general because they need it. And that's my shout out for this month.
Jay Rosen, do you have a shout out and or rant for us?
I have a shout out to first responders. Their work is dangerous, heartbreaking, and I don't know how they can muster the composure to do what they do. It's a shame they're often called to the front lines of danger, but we are lucky to have them to be the ones to protect us and run into the burning buildings. Thank you for all that you do.
So I have a shout out today for everyone who has ever heard me talk knows the three most important things of any compliance program are document, document, document. So today I'm going to shout out to the Trump organization for following my prescription of document, 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 which led to the indictment of its CFO, Alan Weisselberg. And I'm going to quote here from Slate magazine. Lest anyone think this might have been an innocent mix-up over additional benefits which should have counted as taxable income, the Trump Corporation allegedly maintained an internal spreadsheet that included the fringe benefits alongside Weisselberg's formal salary and bonuses to document how his real compensation added up to the agreed $940,000. So the fringe benefits were explicitly and directly deducted from Weisselberg's gross pay in that separate spreadsheet, which may as well have read, here's a detailed description of how we conducted our illegal tax crimes. So lest you think document, document, document only applies to compliance, well, here it applied to the Trump organization, and it's led to the indictment of its chief financial officer and an indictment of the Trump organization itself. So shout out to the most ubiquitous phrase in compliance, at least in my mind, document, document, document. Lisa Fine, do you have a shout out and or rant for us?
I have both. I'll start with somebody had to rant, right? So I'll start with a quick rant. And this was something that I mentioned on our podcast a few months ago when I did my individual episode, and I feel it very strongly, is this, the overuse lately of the term thought leader. I think everybody who is working and challenging themselves to become, a thought leader forgets often that doesn't just mean we're sitting, I feel very fortunate to be sitting with all of you today, being able to discuss my thoughts. But just as many times you have people in organizations and people making an impact and unsung heroes every day, bringing their thought leadership and decision making in so many different contexts. So I think oftentimes when we hear that in presentations or webinars or big discussions, I think that we forget, and that people that as they're building their careers, you can be a thought leader many different ways all the time and in many different contexts. So that was my rant. My shout out is, and I have to say, document. Tom is one of my favorite phrases from even before my compliance days. So I think it's a universal one. So I just love that the Trump, that was used by them, the organization. But I will say that my shout out is to people who speak up and raise valid concerns. I think that it takes a lot of courage to go out there and put yourself out when you think something went wrong. And I think even when Matt was talking about that at the beginning, I think with World Whistleblower Day, I know there are a variety of different ones to honor that. I think that the courage and the people who raise those concerns and with the pain that they go through, often as a result of it, deserve a shout out all the time, but particularly right now and generally. I think that was my shout out to those who raise concerns, blow the whistle, and have the courage to do the right thing when it feels like the odds are stacked against them.